When we're thinking about infrastructure as code, we're thinking about designing what a virtual machine or a server or some service like ECS or Azure Container Apps or even an S3 bucket, something along those lines is going to look like from a software perspective, okay? So software defined infrastructure, infrastructure as software. I like the term infrastructure as software. I don't know if a lot of people are using it anymore, but years and years ago, that's pretty much what we were, using infrastructure as software, or IaaS. And there are a lot of approaches to this. So right now we're still very much seeing, Kubernetes clusters, for example, dealt with in one single entity. Here's one, here's one, here's one. And we do need to get to a point where we treat clusters like we do containers, as in whenever we're done with them, we throw them away and a new one comes up, or if one fails, a new one comes up, and it's super straightforward and easy to take our configurations and move them from one place to another, as in from one cluster to another, blue, green, whatever you want to call it. So that's the goal. That's really what we want to get to as an industry. And then the other piece of it is, okay, we have these configuration languages, but are there any other options? And more importantly, let's say you're a team of 3 or 5 or 10 people, and everybody on that team is used to writing in Go or in Python or in TypeScript or whatever the case may be, a general purpose programming language. They probably don't want to go and learn another configuration language. And better yet, they probably don't want to change the whole workflow, because they probably are using certain tools like SonarQube for static code analysis. Maybe they're doing certain unit tests and mock tests and integration tests and just about anything else that you can think of for their code in their language of choice. And then they have to kind of be like, okay, now we need to do all of this stuff, but for a configuration language. How do we do it? And that's where something like Pulumi comes into play. So essentially, we just have the ability to write in whatever language we want, well, the language that are supported by them, and build out our services or our infrastructure. So let's take a look at what that looks like. All right, so once you install Pulumi, which you can just go on the Pulumi website and figure out what installation method works best for you. Like you can use Brew, for example, if you're on a Mac, okay? And then you're gonna use Pulumi new. This is creating a new project, and you're gonna tell it what type of project you wanna create. So in this case, it's Azure-TypeScript. It could be Azure-Python. It could just be TypeScript. So literally, if we do, let me just go here really quick. We'll do Pulumi new TypeScript. Oops, sorry, we gotta do mkdir TypeScript cd into TypeScript, and then we'll go ahead and we'll run that again. All right, we'll just do all the defaults here just because I just want to show you what this is going to look like. We're not actually using this project. I just wanted to make a point here that, yes, you can just create one just like this. You have an index.ts. There's nothing in here other than just importing the Pulumi package. But then if you do something like, let me go ahead and literally delete all this here. In the same directory, I'm going to do Pulumi new Azure TypeScript. Again, I'll leave these as the defaults. Oh, I have a stack already created there. I'll just change it to staging, no big deal. And then as you can see, we have a different prompt than we had before. So for example, because this is for Azure, we get to choose what region it's going to be in, okay? And then it goes ahead and installs all the dependencies here. And then what it does is it gives us a little bit of code to start off with. So as you can see, it's still doing the dependency thing, but it's actually giving us a template. So in this template, we can create an Azure resource group, create a storage account, and then get the keys, okay? And this is all in TypeScript. And you could do the same thing for any other language that's supported, all right? So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna open up a project that I already have for AKS. Right. So again, it looks the same. You have your package.json for your dependencies. Just like any other TypeScript code, it's pretty much just compiling into JavaScript. You have your Pulumi.yaml, which has your config in here. You could also use this, or is it this one? Yeah, you should be able to use this one, or rather the stack YAML, okay, for a config. All right. So notice here, in the pulumi.dev.yaml, I have this config here, and I can actually use this for environment variables to pass in, just like your var.tf files in Terraform. All right, so I'm going to open up the index.ts. And as you can see, I should put these in environment variables, but I'm just using this as an example here. So I'm importing Pulumi, and then I'm also importing the container service, which holds the functions we need or methods we need to create a Kubernetes cluster, all right? So notice I'm importing it as AKS, and then I'm creating a new object here, AKS.managed cluster, and that is being pulled from container service via the Azure native library, right? Now, if I scroll down here, we have everything that we need to create a cluster. A location in this block here, notice we have our block, location, resource group name that it's going in, Kubernetes version, what the node pool looks like, the identity, and tags, okay? I can even specify the max pods here, which is cool, right? Version, all that stuff. I should obviously, of course, make this into a variable as well, right? And then we have some local variables here, or rather global variables, because it's outside of a function. And we're just specifying a couple different pieces of information here, okay? So now what I can do is, if I just cd into AZAKS, I can say Pulumi up, create a new stack with it, all right? Call it dev. All right, and as we can see here, it is creating our cluster. And of course, it's creating a cluster, so it is going to take a few minutes to complete here, all right? So we're going to go ahead and we're going to give it a little bit of time. We will choose yes because we want to create these two resources. All right, and as we can see here, that cluster was created successfully, and that's it. It's really all we have to do. Well, actually, let's click on this link here, see what happens. Oh, okay, it doesn't do much because we're not using Pulumi's UI. All right, but if I go to Portal, we can see our AKS cluster is right here. And that's just another way that you can get clusters or VMs or anything else, like I said, services like an S3 bucket up and running if you don't want to use general configuration language like HCL.